Okay, friends. So, I haven't seen the Mandalorian movie, but I've seen reviews of it, so let's say what would I say about it. The movie needed three things in it to be really great. You need a Jedi figure for the Mandalorian to fight, because he's a Mandalorian. Mandalorians fight Jedi in their grand epics. Now, you could have had any number of Jedi. You had the potential to pull out Force abilities being pushed onto Grand Moff Gideon on one of his clones through genetic experiments that could have led to other things, which is one of my fan script that I wrote. Because season 3, episode 8, everyone was freaking out what that was going to be. Everyone was worried because Jon Favreau had his character killed off before then. So I have this huge fan script written where he gets basically pulled into the underground base underneath everything, where there's a whole other secret facility that's basically armored and survives the destroyer coming down and crashing on it. And that's where my script kind of opens up is they basically fake their death. The compound was designed, and Axel Wolf, or whoever the guy is that crashes the destroyer on them, is actually working for Moff Gideon, because Moff Gideon is the rightful handler of the Darksaber as far as he cares in my interpretation, which leads to him actually being motivated out of loyalty and obligation of the Mandalorian way, and not a bad guy by their own standards, though the Mandalorian faction at times, if Death Watch is a villain faction, not the point. So my story basically revolves around the idea of a Dark Jedi, or just a gray Jedi, if you want to go with like one who's morally abandoned any concept of light or dark and is just, obviously he's on to the dark side if he is, but from his perspective he's not a bad guy. He's probably working in the underworld, working for the Hutts. Maybe he is in the Gladiator combat too, and he just does that for his practice. That's his practice. Well, that's exactly the sort of thing a Dark Jedi would do, is they would get paid to kill people for fun or for practice. They might even take any money for it. They might just do it for the sake of doing it, and then let other people keep the money and just use the wealth and the social and psychological power they gain from it. So you got this Dark Jedi. He's in the gladiator pits, and Jabba's son is going to be put up against him, and the Mandalorian has him out of there. This eventually ends up with a huge confrontation because he's not always in the pits. That Dark Jedi, he's doing other stuff too. He just goes down there for his like weekend trip, kind of a bit like the movie Gladiator, with how the Emperor character, I think, fights in the pits. Am I misremembering that? Whatever. So you got the general character representing like the Mandalorian who's been captured and he's thrown into the pits to fight. And the Dark Jedi at some point is impressed because he has an actual Mandalorian to fight for his pride, and he doesn't want to just force crush him. He already used the Force to capture this Mandalorian, but no one else could get him because of his armor. So he's got the Mandalorian down there. He's not in his perfect armor anymore. Now he's vulnerable to a lightsaber or anything else. And he's had all his distance weapons taken away, and he's forced to fight with like vibro blades, other shit like that. And you got this, maybe he's even given the chance to train with a saber if he can use it, because this Dark Jedi knows he's held a lightsaber before, because he's heard of the Dark Saber. So he actually builds him a new Dark Saber, knowing how it's done. And he says his reward is getting to keep his life and the Dark Saber if he defeats the Dark Jedi. Meanwhile, Grogu sneaks in at some point with other bounty hunters, not even Mandalorians, other bounty hunters who come in. They surround, and Mandalorian's been beat up several times. The Hutts are watching. This is long after every other story beat has been taken out. And this Dark Jedi is winning, and Grogu leaps in and takes the Darksaber and actually uses it to fight him. And you have Grogu, and this guy realizes Grogu's Force sensitive once Grogu uses the Force speed to attack him. And so you actually end up with a mix of lightsaber combat and Force combat at the end. Meanwhile, the Mandalorian isn't giving up. He grabs a different weapon and he goes after the Dark Jedi too. And the Dark Jedi's fighting a two-front attack. And it's Grogu and the Mandalorian are working in tandem to defeat him. And sometimes Grogu will actually throw the saber to Mando to buy him time, while Grogu uses the Force to distract the guy, and that leads to how they win the fight. Grogu using the Force, Mando with a saber right through the guy's back, piercing out the front of the saber. And he just pauses and he kind of grins. Maybe somehow he gurgles something. Maybe it sounds almost like congratulations and he just dies. Maybe he starts to burst out in electricity because he's really gone dark side and Grogu has to actually shield them from it. Maybe he actually hurls the guy's body away as it's exploding. Maybe it's just a regular death. Kind of anticlimactic. There's no point in being anticlimactic. Let Grogu hurl him away to save Mando one last moment after Mando's basically won the fight for him. Teamwork all the way. That's what I would do for the Mando movie's big villain. Jabba's son, is still a prisoner in the pits. And there's basically this huge fight going on in the crowd at this point because the Hutts want to go down there and kill them, but the other bounty hunters won't let it, and they won't let, and they're fighting the guards of the Hutts, and it's a bloody mutiny as other slaves realize it's their chance to be free, and they all have brain implants, and they're all worried about it, so they're rushing the guys who have the controllers for the brain implants that can make them start detonating. And it's just this huge melee, and you'd have to work all these elements into the story, but it can be done. You work with elements that have been previously in the Star Wars saga to the audience, and just work with it, make it amazing. Imperial starship comes flying overhead. They registered that the Dark Jedi is dead, and they actually observe. They don't destroy anything, they just take a quick scan, and maybe they track the beam out there underneath the guy's body. Maybe they don't even do that. Maybe some door on it opens, and some guy in jetpack armor comes down, and he talks to the Mandalorian and offers him a job. Because they were basically prisoners of the Dark Jedi. He was a very powerful one. He was keeping them prisoners, and they're actually grateful to the Mandalorian, and they offered him whatever he wants for freeing them. And this could lead to future quests and future ideas for the character development and his actual access to Imperial hardware. And I always like the idea of him getting those, I think they're called Sentinel class shuttles, and just have them, it's kind of like the Tidarian, but it's for the more of a troop shuttle that's shown in one of the films. That's basically what I would do. I would have it be this great story about this is me working in the ideas of what they had with some of the ideas I had about him fighting a Dark Jedi in the story. I'd use the Empire faction that was there, that was basically a slave, to give Mando tools to help hunt down and bring into order or justice some of the other Imperial remnant. And he basically can bring this group into serving his planet of the Mandalorians, and they basically become Mandalorians. Because they're Imperials, a lot of them are wearing Stormtrooper armor already, so I mean, what's the difference between Stormtrooper and Mandalorian armor really? I mean, it's different, but it's a helmet's a helmet in a way. And they can reshape their armor eventually, and they'll become just Mandalorian troops eventually. They'll get jetpacks, they'll have cool blasters, and Mandalore grows. And they're warriors, they're Stormtroopers, they're already warriors, so they know how to fight. They know discipline, and the officers will adapt, and they'll perhaps grow to use armor too. Mandalore grows, it's huge, and this opens up so much for a future film. That's what I would have done. Anyways, in my story there's a huge Dark Trooper uprising, the robotic things. 10 of those were hidden under the surface of Mandalore in my story, and there was a huge Mandalore civil war where these Dark Troopers rise up and fight the Mandalorians. I call it a civil war because they're both inhabitants of the same world, but different factions, so it's not really a civil war. That's what I'd do. Moff Gideon has his clones that survive under the surface, and they have other Dark Troopers that are force sensitive that they've been working on and growing, so that's kind of what I would do. Jon Favreau's character would have actually been brought down there and survived, and they would have implanted him with some force-sensitive modifying materials. And they realized too late that he was already force-sensitive from his bloodline. And this just causes it to go into overdrive, and he actually becomes notable, and maybe he has this force vision where he sees the past leaders of the Mandalorian species, and he actually talks to them, and he sees a vision of Abeloth. And his awakening to the Force is seen in turn by Luke, and Luke has set in range a series of events that will involve Luke and the rebels coming to their world at some point to save them from some other disaster, just in time, because it was all organized according to a Force vision he had ahead of time. That's what I love. Oh, and then Luke gives Grogu a gift of a holochrome from Tar Vizsla, or whatever the original Mandalorian that was a Jedi long ago that he found and came across and had been studying. And he gives it to Grogu, so as Grogu represents the future of the Mandalorian Jedi, and hopes that Grogu will become a great Jedi with time and studying. And has an open invitation to him, and he ends up bringing Jon Favreau's character with him to train under him, along with Jon Favreau's character's son, and they both go off to hone their powers so that they become greater Jedi and greater Mandalorians. Well, greater warrior Mandalorians who are able and in tune with the Force. And they'll be back eventually. And this will lead to a really great expansion of the Mandalorian planet into a whole armored faction that can take on the First Order. It might be why the First Order is not as strong as it is by the time it does reach the Republic and the Force Awakens. And maybe the Mandalorians didn't have a chance to warn the Republic because they're stuck in a civil war and they're being blockaded by part of the First Order who can't beat them but can't get past and can't really leave their spot either, otherwise the Mandalorians will get past them and warn the Republic, so they're stuck in this huge blockade and they're just fighting back and forth for like years while the sequels happen. Could be fun. Anyways, not so much a review as what I would have done slightly differently. I hope Jon Favreau would be showing interest in having help as having an extra writer on board. I'm available. I'm not great, but I could write out some outlines. I always throw my script suggestions off to Disney. I've thrown them off to Bob Iger's email tons of times, and I've thrown them off to Mr. DeMero's email. If you guys want them, I mean, I give all sorts of great suggestions. I would love to get some more outlines for ideas. I give them an idea for a way to use the acolyte, use the actors who played the characters, and just create like an actual Jedi focus show out of it. And don't call it the acolyte, just call it Jedi Knights of the Old Republic or something as a TV show, and just use them. It wouldn't be based on the video game. It just use the same name because it's a great name. No worry. So, or Jedi Knights of the Republic if they have to change it slightly. Anyways, have a great day. Yeah, I know my hair's a mess. It's always a mess. I could trim it, I guess, one of these days. I look at it and I'm just like, I don't know which way to take the hair off. Take the hair off, I guess, and trim it down, but whatever. Have a good day. The call beyond you and I. It was the stars that spun energy around and around, casting light and dust everywhere they bound. In the dreams of you and I had the power to live and be.
just the hollow